Oh man, they gave us a podcast and now
They gave us a podcast?
We get so
hello,
salud,
Pablo.
señor. Salud,
Good to see
salud,
you,
salud,
man.
salud.
Here we are in the Dos Amigos podcast. I'm Freddy Rodriguez.
Say my name, say my name.
Say my name.
I'm Wilmer Valderrama. Very excited for all of you who have been witnessing this union. Feels like a wedding now. It's like a wedding now. No, I just also want to call out to all the fans and all the supporters of the podcast.
Yeah.
You know, we're a couple of episodes in now, and the feedback has been awesome. And iHeart, our partners, iHeart, very happy. You know, and you guys are subscribing. You guys are you know, and you guys are downloading, and that means a lot to us because these conversations, as therapeutic as they are for us, they're also for you.
You think it's like a big therapy session, huh?
It really is. It really is. Like every dinner and every coffee you and I have ever had.
It is. Yes. Yeah, we're just sort of unloading, you know.
Ask me how I'm doing.
How are you, Wilmer?
I'm tired.
You're tired, yeah.
Yes, I'm really tired.
But why are you tired? And we had this discussion upstairs, but we're gonna open it up to the audience. Why are you tired?
You know, I'm tired because I've realized that in the growth of some of my entrepreneurial ambitions, I realized that I'm only one man.
Yes.
And I've been really privileged to have like an amazing team, right? Like the department heads of all of our entire company do a beautiful, effortless job of keeping, you know, the dream rolling in different hills, you know? So that's been great. But I'm a little tired because I'm also shooting a full-time show. I'm shooting a full procedural drama on CBS. And so in between takes, I'm sending my emails. In between scenes, I'm making calls. And at lunchtime, I'm doing my Zooms. And then when I get home, I finish my catch-ups and I read the scripts that I got to read or whatever it is. Yeah. And then I hang out with my 4-year-old daughter. And, you know, and that's kind of how it's been working, you know. But
I don't know how you find the hours in the day, really. It's impressive, bro. I'm not just saying that because you're in front of me. I thought I worked hard. And then I saw you and I was like, I ain't got shit on this guy right here.
No, bro, you know what it is? I think we talk about it all the time. It's like, you know, you get an opportunity to do something our families have never done. And you're like, well, not only have to really know it. Yeah. But I also have to now kind of, you know, drive it forward. You know, I have to kind of like, okay, do it in a level that nobody's ever done before. And, you know, which actually kind of drives us, you know, to our episode of the week. Yeah. I think a lot about what we've been talking all the way up to now. Yeah. You know, just if anybody can hear that, it's my washer and dryer that's just outside the door. just didn't load. You know, we are in a speakeasy. You do have to go through the laundry room in order to
you
get
got booze, you got
room.
Coffee, you got laundry.
Yeah, I got
you
everything.
Got Tide and Downy.
We got room keys. So I think that's kind of what keeps me going. You know, knowing that I've been given an opportunity that very few have. Yeah. But also we picked the hardest thing to assume we could do.
Are we crazy?
We are. We have to be crazy.
For being in this
we
business.
have to be crazy to think that this is something like we should absolutely take on.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, what do you think?
I think so. I mean, you know, I had children at a very early age in a profession where you don't know where your next check is coming from.
Or where you're going to go.
Where are you going to go, where it's going to lead. It's not secure at all. And so, you know, a lot of it is just relying on your own instincts, your own abilities, your own faith in yourself, right? The team's faith, which is sort of a lot of what I see in you too. You know, you and I behind the scenes have a lot of discussions about different projects and things. You know, you showed me that trailer for that wonderful documentary that you're working on. And I continue to be excited at the stuff you keep putting out through your company and the stuff you keep showing me. You know, I think it's indicative of your instinct as an artist, your instinct as an executive. So I know you're lacking sleep right now, but from what I've seen, it seems like it's worth it and it's all coming to fruition.
It's worth it. I mean, I really do think it's worth it. And to be honest, you know, it's been an ever evolution of the company. You know, the company is really breathing.
Is that why you got the hat on today?
Oh yeah, today I was in official business. For those of you who cannot see it and are listening to it, I'm wearing my company's hat, WV Entertainment.
Is
That's
that
been
how the
around for
audience
almost 20 years.
Is that how the audience is going to know that you're?
Yeah, it's like this is
Is that
the way I'm in duty.
Is that like your army fatigue?
Yeah, it's my duty. I'm in duty. When I wear the hat, I'm in duty. But the company has been around for almost it's almost 20 years now.
Wow. Yeah.
Been producing a lot of stuff that you all either have seen or grown up with. But without like straying too far away from the episode. One of the things that I was excited to explore today is the audacity to dream something different than our family.
Right.
Like how and why do we have the, las pelotas.
Las pelotas.
Las bolas. To dream something our parents were so far removed from what they were, And I wanted to explore it because in the last couple of episodes, we've gotten to know each other's stories before we were even an idea to our family.
Yeah.
And, the inspirations, the thing that it took, what was that break,
Yeah.
But like the mentality, like what multi-generational expectation did you have to break to make what we do possible? Like, you know what I'm saying? You know where I'm going?
Oh, 100%, 100%. I know we covered a little bit of this in the previous episode, but I think what you're saying is, and this is where both of our families are similar because they came from somewhere else to the United States, is there's a bit of a one-track mind, right? Wouldn't you agree? A little bit, right? Where families, because they're somewhere else, right? Your family was in Venezuela, in Colombia, la familia mía estaba en Puerto Rico.
Exacto.
And there is this mentality of like, we're going to leave this beautiful country, landscape, weather, and we're going to go somewhere else because that's where the opportunities are, right? And I think that there's a bit of a blueprint that comes with that, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes the blueprint is you go there, you go to school, you get a job, you get married, you have a couple of kids, and that's the way life goes. And that blueprint is to be repeated in some way. And when you deviate from that blueprint, is when I guess we have to ask ourselves what you just said, where do we get the audacity, los cojones, las bolas to
I mean,
to do
and
it,
piggybacking with what you're saying, I think it's also an interesting thing to reflect that our parents were also taught by their parents and their parents' parents to do enough to survive.
Yeah.
Right? Like continue to search and making sure the light stays on.
Yeah, survive is the key word there.
Right?
Huh?
Like in our culture, we're workers, right? We're we are in the beehive, like just working and working and working, and I think that I think I also wonder that I was thinking of my dad. Did my dad think about long-term stability? I don't think he was equipped to understand how to create multi-generational wealth. Or what he was going to leave behind, right? I think he was kind of caught in a web where he just needed to make sure there was enough food on the table and that we had a roof.
Yeah.
No matter the cost to himself and my parents' relationship and that kind of stuff. So it's interesting to think about that, and that's why like that sacrifice almost made me feel like, oh, that sacrifice is being made so I can do something more. Right. And I don't know where along the way I thought that was what the sacrifice was for. But I quite literally think now as I look back, not just culturally, but the trajectory of the Valderrama family.
Right.
Everything that was done just so we, my sisters and I, had a better shot. And like, what are you gonna do with that better shot? I mean, think about it. Like, remember you telling me about your grandfather, the hardest working guy. Yeah. He had a day off, and he's like, "I'm gonna help my neighbor paint the house." Right? Yeah. You know what I mean? Like it's like the ever search of not just being in service, but like affording you a better step in the ladder, like a little higher step in the ladder, right? Like to get closer to. Do you know where I'm going with this?
100%. And that's a really interesting observation. I think that I don't think, I'm speaking on behalf of my parents too, right? I don't think that my parents or my dad or my uncles or aunts came to Chicago and were thinking about generational wealth or what to leave behind or any of the things that you just mentioned. I think they were just trying to survive, right? Check by check, right? Week per week, maybe save a little bit and go and buy a house or buy a building or maybe invest a little here and there. But I think that was the extent of it. I think that us growing up in the States, we started to learn about generational wealth. We started to learn about leaving things behind or leaving stuff behind for our kids. And that's one of the luxuries that we get from living here, right? That our folks didn't get when they were living where they were living at.
So in that same vein, like, what do you think? What was the common denominator for us to have a different mentality?
Right.
Like, we had to have been aware of the struggle, right? That's number one. I would say, like, that's ingredient number one. See our parents struggling to keep it even.
Yeah.
Like, maybe that's ingredient one, but then, like, what makes you go, I'm gonna be this, right? And for us, like, look, again, we picked the hardest thing to actually make it in. So do as we say, not as we did, right? But it is a very funny thing to think about, like, okay, now I'm gonna be a little more ambitious than my parents,
right?
But, like, what made you go, oh, but I'm gonna go that much more ambitious, right?
Yeah. Let me ask you something. Yeah. Before you decided to go down this path, were there other things that you were interested in, other professions that you were interested in or interested in pursuing? Like what? What were you interested in pursuing?
So when I first got to the United States at 13, I was about to turn 14, but really I was 13. I wanted to be a pilot for the Air Force. I wanted to fly an F-16.
No way, man.
I saw those fighter jets and I was like, I want to do that.
Huh.
And I want to do it wearing the American flag on my shoulder. It's like, that's what I want to be.
Yeah.
Then I started meeting different people from different branches of the military, and I was like, wow. Yes, I want to serve,
Right.
And the other one was psychology. I was fascinated by strangers.
Yeah.
I am still very much fascinated by the human mind. How every decision is based on thousands of echoes of lessons and traumas that shape your instinct every single day. And, like, peeling those layers was fascinating to me. And I think that was an interesting thing for me. I mean, I was fascinated by it. I was really intrigued by it. And I think as soon as I became an actor, it's like, oh, I'll play a pilot on TV or on film, but at the same time, I get to explore individuals, people, and all these characters. But
you don't think that if you would have gone down the path of becoming a pilot or psychology, you don't think that you would have approached that with the same fervor and ambition that you approached acting?
Yeah.
So it may be that component was in you no matter what, right? And you just happened to choose acting, and so then you activated that component in you that made you go further than. So this would have been inevitable in whatever profession you would have chosen.
Yeah, which is kind of what I'm trying to get to. I'm trying to get to what is the common denominator that could really be passed on.
Yeah,
like how do we pass this on to everyone listening? Right? Like, how do they relate to this point that we're trying to make? Like, and everyone out there is either carrying the burden of multi-generational inheritance.
Yeah.
Right? Some may be enjoying the what's been passed down from their inheritance. You know what I mean?
Right.
But for most people, like us growing up, we were passed down, the ability to just survive, like just do enough to live. You know what I mean? And be a worker. Work hard, work as many hours as you can. Because that's just that was the way.
Yeah.
What about you? Would you have had a different profession at some point? Or do you think? Because I know your family was going in one direction, right? Your brothers.
Yeah. I think back. and I know I've said this a couple of times, I just wasn't, I wasn't interested in anything else. Like there was nothing else I was particularly interested in. And so when I discovered the arts, I think that one, I was born with a certain, and I'm just an ambitious person by nature. And so I think that whatever I would have chosen, if I was passionate about it, I would have approached it with the same ambition and fervor. I think that survival, right? Our family's position in the United States and their need for survival was injected in me at such a young age, and so there was this do or die attitude. There was this all my eggs are in one basket attitude because I didn't have a trust fund, right? My family wasn't rich. I didn't have anything to fall back on. And so there was this attitude of like, this is going to work or nothing.
Right.
It's this or bust, buddy.
Like it has to work.
And that's it. Yeah. Because I didn't have rich parents, or I didn't have like a rich uncle who was going to leave me $1 million,
Do you think that's what's missing from most ingredients? So for most recipes to success?
The ambition aspect of it?
No, what you had just mentioned is like, it has to work. I have nothing else. I want to do nothing else.
Right.
You think that leap in faith in you is what actually, it's the ingredient that separates you from trying it and doing it?
Is it sort of the magic bullet? Is it the magic ingredient?
You have to be that delusional to be like, I can do nothing else.
Why else? But why else would you choose a profession where you just don't know where your next check is coming from? You have to be a tad delusional in order to, right? And it's you against 200-300 other people.
Yeah, and we're the first parachuters in our family, right? Like,
100%. Yeah. While you're, I've met your siblings, and they all are normal.
Well,
unlike you and I.
Marilyn and I are pretty crazy.
No, but they, right? They did what the parents expected them to do and are doing very well at it, right? But we had a screw loose in there to say, I'm going to jump in the ring.
And this is the only thing I want to do.
And this is it.
Right? So I mean, that trigger is something for me because I had made a promise to my parents. Going back to that episode where we talked about my dad's car was stolen.
Right.
And I told my dad, don't worry, Dad, I'm going to be an actor. I'm going to make this money and I'm going to have restaurants and we're going to buy us a house. We're never going to have to pay rent again. That are like all these things that I had promised. I feel like when he gave me permission, like when he said, okay, mijo, you can do that. I feel like, not only he gave me permission, not only he said yes, I could go to soccer practice, which is acting class for me. Like you could try that. But I felt like, okay, now I have to make this work.
Because you made a promise.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I don't know. I think this hypothesis, this interesting philosophy or equation.
So you felt you were being beholden to this thing.
I had committed.
You committed, yeah.
Right? I had committed. I committed to saying, this is okay. I got to take care of my family. I'm taking the role of, this was at 15 years old, right? I'm like, I'm going to make sure that we don't have to worry like this again. And then my mom and my dad doesn't have to worry this hard.
And you're the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest, yeah.
So there's also that component. Yeah. Being the oldest, the two younger sisters, right? Like, el hombre de la casa, right? Like, you're...
Yeah, I'm still wondering, what was that other thing, right? Because you go, okay, well, I'm gonna be an actor,
right?
I just learned how to speak English 3 years before that, right?
Right.
Like I'm gonna be an actor, and thinking it was just like saying I'm gonna be a lawyer, right? I'm gonna be a cop, I'm gonna be a teacher. Like it was just like, I'm gonna be an actor. Like what?
But I remember you saying when you started to tell me that you started acting, I was like, well, Wilmer, did you do it when you told me your story about, your first auditions and all that, I'm like, well, did you do it before? And you were always like, well, I was sort of the class clown. I was sort of this. So like you recognize that you had this particular ability way before you had the audacity of hope, right? So maybe subconsciously you were like, well, I was born with an ability to kind of do it. So maybe that was, as opposed to saying,
oh, that's interesting.
I want to be a star. I want to, there's, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that, it's funny, and this is like an awful comparison, but just follow me for a second. I remember reading an article with Michael Jordan, and they asked him, could anybody be Michael Jordan? And he said, no. People could be at different levels or degrees of Michael Jordan. He goes, but I was born with a very specific ability to do what I do. And within my journey, I just kept developing that thing, that skill that I was born with, and he recognized that really early on,
Wow.
So it could be that you were born with a very specific ability to do something. Your subconscious told you that, and you just kind of went with that.
Right.
Because what else would make you go that crazy to put your eggs in that basket?
Well, definitely didn't never. Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Because I was always singing, dancing, and acting since I was 6 years old, but I did it just because it was mandatory in school.
Right.
Like in Venezuela, these classes are mandatory.
But you must have gotten, everybody's doing it, but you must have gotten somebody going like, hey.
I mean, I saw people laughing.
Right. Probably like more than everybody else.
Yeah, I was tasting the fruits of an entertainer. I was like, oh, I'm entertaining. Oh, that's cool.
Right.
Right. But and then not until I came to the United States where I was like, okay, the more acting I do in school, the better my English.
Right.
Right. So using it for my English. And then I was like, hey, you should do some commercials. You make some money here and there, whatever. And that's like, oh, I can make money doing this thing? What? Yeah. And I never was thinking I was going to be like successful, famous actor like that. The ambition wasn't that I'm going to be the most famous. The ambition was like, oh, I heard that I can make a couple of commercials and make a little money.
Right.
And then that turned into the first pilot of, the show. And
But the foundation of that was rooted in very early experiences when you were doing it in school. And I'm sure everybody
I was like subliminally sharpening a tool, right? Like basically.
But everybody I'm sure was getting a laugh, but the laughs and the looks might have been different towards you. Because I think that people recognize or might have recognized an ability that you may not have even recognized in yourself.
Yeah. I don't think I fully comprehended that I maybe was equipped to do it.
Yeah.
Until I started doing it. What about you? Did you have a moment where you were like, wait, I've never done this before, but it came natural?
Yeah. I remember I was in the 7th grade and I had a teacher named Mr. Levine. And like I said in the previous episodes, we had no arts at all at school. And he would make it a point that on Fridays, he would inject some form of art in the class. And we were having a talent show at our school. Did you guys have talent shows? Mm-hmm. So we were having a talent show. And I don't know how he got this because this was pre-internet. But he went and he got a scene from Different Strokes, with Gary Coleman, that TV show. And he must have seen something in me that I didn't see because he said, look, at the talent show, we're going to do the scene from Different Strokes and you're going to play Arnold. And I was it was 7th grade, so I was like 12, and I was like, okay. And so like I got up, and this was at a point in my life when like I was just really lost, and I wasn't in sports. I wasn't doing anything really. And I got on that stage and I performed this scene from Different Strokes, and I saw the look on everyone's faces. And it was the first time that anyone looked at me like I was doing something that was good. Wow. Which I'm sure must be the look that someone gets when they're really good at baseball, when they're really good at basketball, when they're really good at a math paper, right. When people go, whoa, you're different. You're good at this thing. And it was the first time anyone looked at me like that. So it had nothing to do with like, oh, the applause or like, I'm going to be a star or whatever.
What did that mean to you?
I just thought, oh, it's the first time anyone's looked at me like that. Maybe I'm onto something, you know? And then the next year is when this theater company came to my school and I got involved. And part of the motivation for getting involved was that experience I had the year prior when I was like 12, you know? So you probably don't remember, but you might have had the same experiences when you were in Venezuela where people were kind of like, whoa, hold on a second, you know? The arts is a requirement for everybody, but there's something a little different
there's something natural about
something a little different about this guy right here.
Yeah, no, for sure. I remember a clear moment where I was on stage and I said something and the entire audience started laughing and I was like,
yeah,
ooh, I like the way that felt, you know?
Yeah.
And I just kind of kept at it.
But beyond the feeling, you're probably your young brain was too young to comprehend, but beyond just the feeling of people laughing at your joke, maybe subconsciously you were like, oh, I possess a certain natural ability to do this. You understand?
Yeah,
So it's like something that you were, an inherent ability that you were born with, as opposed to like, I'm gonna be up there and just make everybody laugh and get all the girls.
Yeah, class clown is different than like an actual artist, right? Like
the what?
A class clown is different than an actual artist. If you were to give somebody who is listening to this conversation a word of advice to break that like multi-generational expectance, you know?
Yeah.
There's this multi-generational, you know, inheritance that says like you got to do the same as your whole family. Like what advice would you give somebody that says like, but dude, like you don't understand, right? Like I've heard it all the time, right? Like, oh, you don't understand. Lucky for you for la 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 la. By the way, it wasn't very lucky for us. Period. Like you took some interesting stuff, right? But I think to your point, like, you know, what word of advice would you give those who are just saying like, you know, oh man, easy for somebody else, or you don't understand?
Is to listen to that inner voice inside that's telling you that you possess a particular ability that may not fall in line with what your family expects you to do. You know, and I think that's where you and I are very similar, right? Like we at a very young age discovered that we possessed a certain ability, and that maybe not consciously was the driving factor behind our audacity to hope, right? And so, for any other person that's in a similar position as us, is to have the audacity to hope and to go out there and to chase your dream, but to listen to that voice inside of you that's telling you that you're good at this thing, you know, and to give it a shot,
Right?
I mean, would you say something different?
No. I think that's a very, very important thing to empower, right? I would also say if I was asked that, you know, I don't know. As I was listening to your advice, I the reason why I was getting pensive is because it really triggered a lot of different things that a lot of individuals said to me that all amounted to.
It's coming back to you.
But also there's like a fragmented anthem of things that happened that made me go, I can do it.
Right?
Put me in the driver's seat. You know, like that one thing that makes you sit in the front row at the classroom.
Yeah.
You know, the thing that makes you go, I'm gonna raise my hand before everybody else. That's the shit right there you gotta like cultivate. That's the stuff right there that you gotta be like pay attention to.
Right.
You know, if you're the first one to raise your hand, if you're the first one to sit in the front, if you're the first one to turn in your test, you're gonna be the first one to be trusted to try. Right. So that's what I would probably tell people. Cultivate your search for excellence, and you'll find yourself doing what you love.
Yeah.
Cultivate
your search for excellence.
Cultivate that, because it's in the search. It's in how you perfect the search process, you know, that gets you to do what you love. Because the more you practice that, the better your attempts, the better your product, the better your ideals, your values get shaped into the traits you need to hold success later. That's what I would say, right? Like, just obsess over perfecting the art,
Right.
of manifestation, which is like, if somebody says we need a volunteer, you don't raise your hand, you walk up, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference between like, I'll volunteer, see if they pick me,
Right.
and I need a volunteer and I'm gonna walk right up and just, there's a difference, right? Remember in the first couple of episodes, we're talking about like, 100% of the actors, like 50% are gonna do this, the other 40% is gonna do that, 5% is gonna do something they think is different, and then that other 5% is going to approach it in a way that feels like this is an attraction. I gotta watch somebody make this choice.
Yeah.
Right. So I think for me to just kind of piggybacking with what you triggered in me is that I would say, if somebody asks for a volunteer, you don't raise your hand and say I'm down. You walk up and say it's me.
Right.
Right. So you start perfecting the art of being audacious about it.
Oh yeah, that's a whole other thing, right?
You're gonna be trusted. You'll be the first one to be trusted to do what you want to do. But it's how much did you obsess over the process of perfecting the art of it that is going to give you the ability to hold on to that opportunity.
Right.
Because it's not getting the opportunity. It's about holding it.
Right.
Right. Because hard work can give you the opportunity.
Right.
Right. Hard work and working on your craft is going to give you the opportunity. But it's how relentless you're going to be about holding it. That's where the hard work, comes in. What do you think? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And when that moment of truth happens, I can't even begin to tell you how many jobs I've gotten because like I get in the room with somebody and I'm like, no, this is me. Like this is my, something about, I don't know what, the confidence that I bring to knowing the character or the project or whatever that kind of put me over the edge, because the person on the other side wants to feel confident and comfortable that they're hiring someone who really understands the material and the project and is going to deliver, right? So there's a certain confidence in that that I've walked in with. And is that kind of what you're saying
100%.
about holding that? Yeah.
And the confidence comes from, you have done the work.
Right.
So you're not going to volunteer by walking all the way up.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like I'm going to pull this off.
Right.
It's not a suicide mission. You know what I mean?
Dude.
So that's kind of how it works. But anyways, thank you for indulging me in that. I think this was kind of a fun one to, as we start leading into those the other explorations of this show. I'm very excited to eventually have a guest here. I guess someone that, that maybe reflects on another expertise that you and I are like, oh man, tell me more about aliens. I want to get to the alien episode.
To the alien episode.
That's what I want. Give me what I want. I want an alien episode.
Yeah,
and
but it'll be interesting, right? To like hear. I'm pretty sure any other actor or whatever, like who's worth their weight in salt, have had very similar experiences like that, right? Who have come up to their sort of moment of truth of like, oh, wait a minute, there's something there that I was born with that I'm going to continue to develop.
That you cultivate into an art form, you cultivate into a service, you cultivate into, into a product, and you package it, and people, you remember DJ AM?
Yeah, I do remember DJ AM.
So he was one of my best friends. And AM and I would talk about this stuff late night all the time.
Really?
And he said to me, like, if I were to give somebody a word of advice, he's like, he said, do something. Find something. He said, find something that you love to do so much that you would do it for free.
Yeah.
And then get somebody to pay you for it.
Wow. Yeah, he was, man, the inventor of like the MASH, the song MASH.
Sweet Home Alabama with Biggie.
I mean, yeah.
Come on, man. Like,
he's such an incredible DJ.
And we miss him because he was a pioneer. He would have been the guy with the residency at Ibiza.
Oh, yeah.
He would have been the guy who would have been doing all the radio hits with all the artists. Like he was a mentor to so many DJs. Steve Aoki was one of his his friends, and he really helped Steve, find that groove. And then Steve Aoki took it to a whole different universe,
Right. This
and
performative aspect, the cakes
everything
and all that.
Yeah, and shout out to Steve Aoki, because that's my brother right there. Many, many moons together as well. But yeah, I think AM, when he said that, I was like, oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What is it that you love to do so much that you do for free, and then somehow find somebody to pay you for it? That's the dream,
Right. I worked with the Hughes brothers before, and I remember them telling me that I guess they went to some form of either film school. I mean, they did that movie Menace to Society when they were like 19 years old. So this must have been when they were super young, maybe 15 or something. But they were in some film class. I don't know if it was film school or a class at their school or something. And I remember them telling me that they almost failed. They almost got an F because they were so sure of what their abilities were, the abilities that they were born with, that they were almost like, beyond what they were being taught in the class. And so the teacher would assign certain assignments to everyone in class, and they just wouldn't do it. And at a certain point, the teacher recognized them and their abilities and allowed and sort of altered the program to fit them and their abilities, And shortly after that, they went and they did Menace to Society, and
Wow.
and the rest is history. But
Yeah.
but again, going back to what we were talking about recognizing these, sometimes people are just born with certain abilities, and you have to master those abilities. You have to follow that voice in the back of your head telling you were born with with an ability to do this.
Well, this was fascinating. I feel incredibly inspired by that. Well, and I hope that everyone enjoyed this episode. I hope that you found a little inspiration in what we're here to do. And I think the next episode should be about a secret topic.
A secret topic?
Yeah, I have an idea.
I
have an idea.
Let's
But
go.
I guess you'll have to tune in to the next episode.
Tune in to the next episode.
To see how it goes.
I'm Freddy Rodriguez.
And I'm Wilmer Valderrama.
For Dos Amigos Podcast. Salud.